All right, I'm just going to give a few minutes. Welcome everyone to this session. I love to know who you are, so maybe put where you're from, maybe what you do, just to get to know each other a little bit in this space that we're sharing online and virtually. And I'll just give everyone a couple minutes to get situated. Hello, Carla. Thank you for joining. Maddie, welcome. Good evening. Oh, we have some groups joining. Santa Rosa, great. Wonderful. Lots of different roles, ways you're reaching out to the community. Thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you for the time and the dedication you're making, for sharing your learning, sharing your expertise, and being willing to be a learner yourself. Wonderful. Well, we have people from all over. Let's see, a lot of California, Los Angeles, Stockton, Fresno, that's where I am. Wonderful. So I want to welcome everyone to this session. Please continue to share. Um, I work at the AIM Center, and I'm really honored to just be sharing some of the strategies we use for family engagement and to share with you the thinking process, the iterations, the um, the theory that becomes reality and how we problem solve and hopefully make things better. The arching goal of just reaching our youngest learners because they are in one of the most important learning times of their lives, and we know that investment in that time is really worthwhile. So at the AIM Center, we have some core values that we try to embody in our work. And today, I feel like this session is centering on three of these. Inclusivity, because we wanted to think about who is being included in the engagement and how we could reach out to those who have lots of barriers to engage in their children's education. Collaboration, because it doesn't just take one organization with one great idea. We always have to work together to make things possible. And human-centered, because we want to believe that um, parents have the highest goals and the loftiest dreams for their children. And a lot of times they are working hard and running on very thin energy, and they still give a lot of time and dedication to their children. So just because they necessarily don't show up for an event that we plan doesn't mean that they really are dedicated to that. So how we can leverage different opportunities to reach out to them is one of the things we'll talk about today. Before I do, I wanted to do a quick introduction about STEM and STEAM is what we're going to consider today. And I love this graphic because it sort of explains more of a visual of what we're talking about. So if you think about disciplinary teaching or disciplinary instruction, it looks a lot like ice cream cones, and all the different flavors are separate on their own cones. And a lot of what our formal education looks like that. We go to math class and we go to science class and we go to English class. But really, we know that in the real world, in where all of these disciplines are applied, it really looks more like the milkshake. It really is a blending of all of those things happening where you really can't pull them apart and separate them so cleanly. And that's what we were trying to think about. And that's where our goal was to look and to try to push towards increasing the levels of integration of what STEM or STEAM looks like. So science, technology, engineering, the arts and mathematics, those are happening all around us. And we really wanted to have a very integrated piece for families to engage with that wasn't so siloed. And some of that happens as well to just calm people's nerves. If you tell them you're going to a math thing, they have a lot of anxiety towards that. But if we say STEM and they see what STEM is and how it's really integrated and how you are still human and human-centered and maybe expressing it through art, um, they can come to a place where they can say, oh, like I do this, like this is part of who I am, this is part of who humanity is. And so we really wanted to like push towards that milkshake and think about how we can integrate these topics. We also considered spatial because spatial is becoming a very, very important piece of the STEM fields. In fact, it is the one common skill that people in STEM professions have. Sometimes we tend to think, oh, they must be able to do math in their head really quickly, or they must have been really fast at computations. But the skill that they share is actually a skill of spatial intelligence or spatial reasoning, which involves like location, moving objects, moving ourselves, being able to like think about giving directions to someone and for those to be accurate. So a lot of ways that we want to consider spatial, that's an important piece, is not just like in the mathematics area, but something that's shared throughout the STEM fields. Um, the definition of STEM really has these three main components: imagery, manipulation, and navigation. Imagery means are you able to visualize something in your head? If someone said a cube or someone said a pyramid, could you visualize that in your head? And then secondly, manipulation. Could you rotate or move that object in your head and still be able to describe or draw what orientation it is after it rotates or slides somewhere? Navigation, like I mentioned before, like giving directions, following directions. We tend to like lean on our phones now in our car to help us navigate. But if we're in somewhere a new place or somewhere we're not familiar with, how do we feel about navigation? These are some of the components of what spatial intelligence is. And when we test kids for different abilities, we tend to test them at the early ages on their verbal and their numeric skills. But just like any other sort of domain or intelligence, spatial intelligence can fall through the cracks as a very important skill because it's not necessarily on anyone's radar. And yet we're learning about really how important it is. So it's becoming a more important thing, and we're trying to think about how we can leverage that because children can only build their knowledge or their intelligence based on the experiences that they have. So there's a distinction between like two-dimension opportunities that children have. So when they're drawing or when they're coloring, they're in this two-dimensional world. But then there's this three-dimensional world where they're building with blocks or doing something more three-dimensional. As we know right now, research has indicated that one doesn't give to the other. Those two are still different in your intelligence perception. And if you're really good at 2D, it doesn't always translate to being good at three-dimensional experiences. So it's really important that our kids have both of those and how we can think about how we can provide those opportunities. I mentioned that because I'm really interested in continuing to study spatial intelligence and working with early educators. A lot of work has been done around math anxiety and what that looks like, but mathematics, much like the STEM world, is a field unto itself. We have geometry, we have calculus, we have topology, we have algebra, and yet, when we talk about math anxiety, we just lump everything together. So, what research is going towards is a way that we can think about the separate things that might give people anxiety. And spatial anxiety might be one of those areas that have a relationship with math anxiety, but can dig down to the actual details of what that might look like. I think what's really important as educators is that we participate in research because researchers can only produce outcomes based on the participation that they have. And it's really important for there to be a diverse participation, for there to be plenty of participation, because it really influences decisions that are made or policies that are made. So I did add this link and I'll add one more to the chat. If you have some time, I'd love for you to go ahead and do this survey. It's a really quick survey. It asks you sort of like a Likert scale on different situations that correspond to the components that we just talked about. The spatial reason is so important, and we're going to see a lot of that happening in the engagement activities that I share today. So we'll go on, and I'm going to give you just a little outline of what we're going to talk about. I'm going to share with you 4 things that we did. Number 1 is play shops. Number 2, take home kits. Number 3, interactive exhibits. And maker fair is the last one, which kind of integrates all 3 of these. So I wanted to save that till for the last part. So if you're following along in your slides, I kind of switched that 3 and 4 piece. So just skip down to the active exhibits, and then we'll go back to the maker fair. I decided sort of last minute that that was a better order to follow. So let's start with play shops. So we were thinking about how we can kind of bring together the community to do STEM activities. At first, we thought about what it would look like for teachers to come. And then we wanted really to remove barriers. Like, we wanted it to be on Saturday mornings. And we thought about, the barriers of getting a sub, the barriers of all the things that teachers have to do at the end of the day, how tired they are. Maybe on a Saturday morning, people would come. And we want to also remove the barrier of like having your children, like wanting to spend time with them. So we opened up a space where if you were an educator, you could come with your child. Or if you were just a family, you could come. You didn't have to be an educator. We make these completely free. And we also serve a light breakfast. So we try to bring the community in to have fun, serve some of their needs, and really dedicate this to some playful learning and exploration around these components that we pick. So we dedicated these playful learnings to using creative materials. We want to we also want to learn a maker-centered approach. We wanted to use that maker-centered kind of learning. So maker-centered learning is like through the making experience is where you can hang the knowledge or the content knowledge on. We're all makers. We all, in some way, in some fashion, like to make something. Either you like to cook, so something that maybe someone calls your hobby is a way that you are a creator, a maker. We wanted to use that, and we also wanted to have some tinkering. And tinkering is just playing with something, like figuring something out. Maybe you'll discover something along the way. So we also wanted to use that approach. Definitely some collaboration. And some of this also has to do with design, like engineering design. Each play shop invites participation to share their own ideas, their artifacts, their stories, their experiences. So at the end, we have some time to people to share out what they've done so far, and then some time for them to just go a little farther if they'd like to and stay a little longer. We explored design learning through making experiences that were interest driven. So even though we had something that we were starting out with, like sort of a project or an introductory activity, we really were conscious of the ways that as humans, we like autonomy. And if we have some autonomy, usually we'll get a better engagement for a longer period of time. So we thought about ways we could like introduce something and then say, what are you curious about? What if you change something in this project or in this activity? What would happen? And then we provided those what materials and space to just let someone explore, change something about the activity. So we didn't want just like 20 things that looked exactly the same. But maybe after the introduction, people could share what pathway they went as a family, as a child, and what they thought about and how they use that activity or path to just go their own way. So I'm going to share a few pictures and some ideas of what we did. One of our play shops was called Surprising Structures. And you'll see here that these are some Legos. Um, these Legos are being held almost like the top one is being held sort of with string, which is what we wanted to kind of make an aha moment about. Like, how does this thing hover? How does string hold it up? there's compression there, there's tension there, and how it's used to hold that up. But it was one model of this surprising structure. So we wanted to think about ways that maybe some common materials just brought a like, whoa, I didn't know that can happen. Like I'm like sort of an expression of wonder and curiosity. So there was this way that we gave directions for them to put this together. And a lot of these are very collaborative. So we have like parents helping children, and I would love to go to these and just like partner up with a child. Like if a mom brought three kids and she was trying to like navigate the three children, I would try to help and just be with one of the children and like help them through the activity. And it was just so much fun to see people, putting them together. Most people have built with Legos, very comfortable with that. And then just tying the string, and you have to get the right tension and the right length to get them to hover. So there was a lot of like problem solving and working together, people sharing their ideas, tying different knots so you could slide them. So people got to share a lot of their activities and their ideas through that. We then did this activity with some dowels and some caps and some rubber bands. And Scott, my colleague, was able to take us through this. So because those rubber bands are colored blue, red, and green, we were able to like help the directional piece of that. So people were able to like start with just a few. I mean, when you look at the model, it looks complicated and it feels a little bit, difficult, like that's going to be hard to do. I'm not sure if I could do that. But as he took us through that, we have these slots in the dowels that he cut so that we can put the rubber bands in there. I was working with the 3-year-old and we were able to put it together. And when you put this model together that uses that same kind of tension and compression, it's called tensegrity. You can actually squish it. It feels very elastic. It sort of bounces. It's very, very stable, even though it moves in different directions. So a little 3-year-old was able to like play with it and just wonder at it and talk about the shapes that he saw with the rubber bands. And with my help, he could use his ability of knowing his colors because he got the right rubber bands, put it on the slots. I would hold it for him and then was just so proud. Like the look on his face at the end was just this feeling of pride and what he had done and how happy he was to do something. And so we try to think about the ways that children, young children can come and experience STEM things or STEAM things. Maybe in at first they sound a little intimidating, like tensegrity, but really thinking about how the rubber bands are holding it together, the ways that he actually put it together. He didn't just explore it, so he actually put it together. So what we're trying to do is like bring families around these activities and help them see how they can do these kinds of things together and create a space for that supports them through that. We do around six play shops a year. So we try to scatter them throughout the year and think about how we're going to, lay them out. We do a lot of practice in house about timing and facilitation and giving instruction. So these are just some of the dates and the things that we've done. And yeah, we had a lot of fun. It started out with a very small number. That number has grown now to so registration maxes out. We get wait lists now, but it took I would say like 1 or 2 years for us to grow that number. And that's just sharing that information, growing that community who follows you. And it's been amazing. I've been at a library and a mom came up to me, said, "Oh, we went to the AIM Center, me and my kids, and we did this activity together." And now the word is sort of spreading, and so that's so much fun to just have a place where people can come and do STEAM together. Our next one is going to be on circuits, and our theme this year is telling stories. So all of the STEM or STEAM people are doing this year is going to be related to telling a story. And whether that's a story you're retelling or a story you're making up or a narrative from your own life, we're sort of letting that be our arts integration piece there. And yeah, we're really excited about how these are going and the community that's coming together. Um, we're seeing kids of all ages come, but a lot of them are um, young kids coming with their parents, and that's just so exciting. And the teachers that come on their own and don't come with kids are so interested in seeing how other kids in the session are exploring with the materials, and I could see them thinking about how they will implement that in their classroom as they see that just unfold organically with kids in the session. Yeah, if we can use a Q&A, we'll do some questions later on. I know you're saying how many people can attend. I think our max is 30 just because of the room that we need. So we do have a max limit just because of room capacity, and just having people, have the space that they need to explore. Oh yes, and I see some questions on resources. So I will share my email at the end, and if you have specific questions on resources, I'll try to share with you all I can. I'm not exactly sure what I can share or not. Some of these things that I'm sharing with you have some public, space already, and some of those things I'd have to check before I share the resource, but I'm sure we'll be able to figure out ways that we can support you in any way we can. Let's go to take-home kits. So I'm going to talk a little bit about take-home kits. These take-home kits, when we started take-home kits, was during COVID. And we wanted the kits to include activities and complementary manipulatives and materials that allow children to explore and learn with their families in a playful way. So we call them Aims at Home kits. The materials were selected with a purposeful intent of being simple, inexpensive, and interchangeable to show that learning arises from what children do with the materials, um, in their natural curiosity, in their creativity, in maybe some games, and not necessarily the materials alone. So, of course, the budget made a lot of that true that we had to overcome, but also thinking about what our challenges were. I mean, challenges that we have over any generation is we want to limit screen time. We want to get kids off their phones. We want to get them off the TV, off the video games. Um, we can't make assumptions about resources that people have in their house. So we wanted to provide everything that they would need to do an activity together. And we wanted to also support parents and caregivers in their role as math teachers, as STEM teachers at home. How could we support them in that role and make it something that they saw themselves being able to do and do together with the children? So, take-home kits are not a new idea. I mean, there's lots of research around take-home kits. Um, there's an article, 1993, Teacher to Teachers, called Take-Home Kits in the arithmetic teacher. It talked about using take-home kits for half-day kindergarten. So it was an idea that has been used. There in young children in 1998, there was another article around home kits. They called them home kits, and they were designed for children in kindergarten that were below class average. So they were designed for a remedial experience. Um, there's one more article I wanted to share. Using learning toolkits to facilitate family involvement was an article in 2009, and that specifically talked about what we used it for. It was designed to increase parents' involvement, for intervention for students with special needs, but also to extend the learning into the home. And so families got to keep the kits. It was voluntary, and families did survey in this research article to talk about how the kits helped them. And one of the quotes was, "The kits encourage families to view themselves as teacher of their own children and reinforce the importance of that role." So just having parents embrace that role of being an educator in their own homes was really important. Um, there's different frameworks that are out there with take-home kits, and this is one of the frameworks. and this was published in 1995. It's a framework that's referred to in a lot of in the three articles that I mentioned that talked about family engagement projects. So when we started leveraging the idea of take-home kits, we were trying to also use some of the things that were already being implemented. For example, like there was distribution still happening at Head Starts. So how could we use the distribution that was happening when families were coming and still getting like diapers and different resources? Could they take a kit home and then do some STEM or some math together at home? So as we started prototyping that idea, we started thinking about just common things that we can't exactly assume that are at the house, but that they could do a lot of different activities with. So this is one of our first prototypes of what we were thinking about is just a set of dominoes. How many dominoes could we give kids? And different prompts that we could come up with, like record what's on your domino as a picture, make an equation out of it, play a game on who has more, match the patterns. So we started trying to think about all the different things you could do with the materials that would make it very rich and have a lot of different variety for them to do at home. So there was a lot of prototyping that went into creating the kits. And then we were so happy because at that time we were all online. So teachers were meeting with kids on Zoom and doing different things with them. This is a kit that made a little wind powered card with a sail. So those two Duplo pieces and then just some paper and tape to make a sail. You could use a fan that you had at your house, a blow dryer. You could blow with your own wind power of your lungs and try to get this little car to go. And it was just fun to see kids exploring the different shapes they could make their sails out of and see how, efficient they were or how well they worked together. Um, so it was just fun to like put those together. And as we continue that iteration from then until now, we have these nice what we call one pagers that we translate into Spanish, for example. So Spanish and English. So we wanted also to break those barriers of language. And then we wanted to minimize the verbiage that parents would have to go through to be able to get to the tasks at hand. We didn't want to give them a book to read, but we wanted to like break it down to the simple things like what's the introduction? What are the materials that you have? What can the parents observe the kids doing? How can they play together? And what can they create to reflect on what they had just done together? Um, at the bottom, you'll see there's some key concepts that we specifically call out the content that the kids are learning, some questions that they can ask the child during those different pieces of the play, and things for them to notice, like notice this, notice that, like how, like for in ways that they could sort of measure or engage with their child, like what am I supposed to look for? Not just the questions asked, but what am I supposed to look for? Because little children are communicating not only through their words, but through their actions, through what they're doing, through what they're noticing, through what they're engaged with. So we were really happy as this kind of fluidly evolved a way for this to continue because after COVID ended, many of our partners still want the take-home kits because they see parents using them and sometimes the rules get reversed at home. If a kid does some activities and then takes the take-home kit home, they were then the teachers and then teaching their older brother or their cousin or their parent how to play a game with their take-home kit. And that was something that they could have and keep and re-engage with at home. We didn't sell these. We I think where they are now is like we create based on our partnerships. So if you have any questions around that, you can email me with that idea. We created in the earlier years, we had up to I think maybe fourth, fifth grade that we were doing take-home kits with. That is kind of streamlined. The older kids, um, our partners don't really request that, but For early childhood, those are still being requested. Those kids are usually only in school for 3 to 4 hours a day. And so the take-home kit is a way for them to extend that learning at home. And so a lot of our partners in early education are still asking for those. So we create and design based on our partnerships and pour that energy into those roles. But of course, if you'd have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any email responses that I get. Um, in last year, I think last year, we distributed 972 take-home kits, and 185 kids were served with those. So some of them, I mean, of course, they got multiple take-home kits throughout the year that they were able to keep at home. But it was just a beautiful way for us to see parents and children engaging at home. And there's lots of ways that the teacher was then the touch point with the parent of following up with the take-home kits and just engaging with them as much as they can. So we're going to go to our third section here, interactive exhibit. So public spaces where we could design experience to stimulate curiosity and learning that were sort of centered on this one exhibit. In our area, we don't have a children's museum, for example. So there's very limited ways that, people are experiencing sort of an exhibit like, um, I guess, interaction. And a lot, if you've ever gone with your child to like a children's museum, it really encourages you to like do something with the child to explore it, to like have that sense of side to side play and or interaction. So we were thinking about ways that we can have some engagement, but not necessarily ask people to come to us. So the play shops, people have to come to us. The take-home kit, we're sending something out that has some resources and we're sending that out. The interactive exhibit was a way to create an experience and place it somewhere where people are already coming and around. So for example, lobbies of childcare areas. So the lobby where you're going to go come and you're going to check a kid out or in. Maybe there's some interaction you could have before you leave the lobby area. Libraries are great spaces. Are there already community events that are happening where we can set out an exhibit? Here in Fresno, we have a place called Storyland. It's a place where kids can go and experience different things around just stories, fairy tales. And so we thought about ways we could bring some STEM into those fairy tales and make some exhibits that were interactive and not just a playground where you're playing and seeing these really beautiful, um, greenery and having this playground experience, but also maybe some interaction and side-by-side interaction with your parent or your caregiver that you're with. So these were community centered, and we thought about how we could design these for the community. So this is an example. So a vortex cannon is sort of this cylindrical shape, and one side of it is covered with something that's very flexible. In this case, it's sort of like a plastic, sort of the tarp that you would have. And my colleague sealed it and then put like a knob in the middle. So when you pull it, it sort of suctions some air inside of it. And then when you let it go, it sort of like pushes that air out in a cannon-like way, like a puff of air is going through. So if you add some smoke to it, you can actually see the air coming out of the cannon. So we thought about how there was this Three Little Pigs exhibit and how we can talk about the big bad wolf like blowing these houses down and let the kids be the wolf in that they're pulling the knob of this vortex cannon and seeing the puff come out. We don't always have the smoke inside of it, but my colleague put some streamers on the houses so you could see the end result of the air flowing through. You can't see the air moving, but it is moving because you can see the result on the other side. Like you can observe that. So that was one way we could create sort of this exhibit-like experience. He made some nice signage that talks about what's a vortex cannon, what science is happening here. And there's also ways to extend that, like you can make some small ones with some cups, some plastic cups cut out, and you can make it with a rubber band and a seal. But just a lot of ways to think about the exhibit kind of experience that people can enjoy. And what we would focus on is we would focus on one exhibit, but then collecting data on who was using it, how long they were using it, how many times did we have to go out and repair this because it was being used so often? Like thinking about things like that that are really the theory becoming reality and problem solving through it. So it was just fun to like continue to explore that. And what our goal was in also creating these interactive exhibits was that as we formulated the design and iterated, making it better, we also wanted to think how we could make it a simple thing for another organization to create. So this is still in draft, but we have these guides that I'll show you with our second example. We have these guides where people can make one for their center or for their space so that they can use it at their space. So vertical wind tubes was, I think, one of the first exhibits that we made using a fan, some plastic, the embroidery hoops. We would make the two-part removable so that you can like break it down and take it somewhere, and really just use tape to put it onto the fan, and then just get all these different light materials and just have kids explore. Now, these are some parachutes that were already made, but kids can make their own parachutes out of like coffee filters and put a scarf in there, put some streamers in there, and just see kids explore with wind. What does the wind do? What floats? What is launched? What stays in the wind tube? So after these were created, we kind of worked out some of the kinks. This is one of the guides that helps another organization think about where they're going to place it, connects it to literature, gives the directions on how to make it. And this is one of the guides I know I can share with you. So if you want one, please email me. I can share the PDF with you. And it tells you exactly how to put it together. We had some organizations come at first and make one with us, so that we could put the guides together, thinking about the instructions that needed to be included. So there's a lot of background work that goes to this final, polished piece, and that's why the Vortex Canon is still in draft mode. But we're really just excited to not only say, look what we have, this nice thing, but also come and learn how to make one for yourself so you could take it to spaces, libraries around your organization, community events that you might already have can have a space like this too. So we're really excited. So we had the vortex cannon, the wind tube. Oh, we had a sensing sand and interactive exhibit. So you see here the sand, sort of a sand area. We tested this one out again at a child care center lobby, and then we took it out to some playground days with young children. We set up some like STEM centers for kids during their playground time. And it was so totally optional if they wanted to come around the table and interact. We want it to be really organic. So we want to see how kids choose to go to that space and how long they choose to stay there. Because that really gives us a lot of information on what is engaging, what's fun, what kind of things they like to do. So this is another play guide that's already complete, Sensing Sand. There's some activities. This is just some copies of the sheets that are in there. So Spanish and English prompts, different things that you can do at the center, whether that's you making a small group or setting up a space for people to interact independent of groups. And this one is a really popular one, the light and shadow one. So the light and shadow was one thing that we started creating. We did a play shop around it. We did some of our own experimentation of different colored lights. And we're continuing to engage with light and shadow. One of our play shops, if you notice, was around telling stories with light and shadow. So we're continuing to engage with that. But this interactive guide shows different phases of play that you can have with the lights and the shadows and different things that you can do. Um, cross crossing the colors of different lights and what kind of experiences that produces for children and how they can play with that. So this one is already complete as well. So if you're interested in this one, I can share it with you. It does show you how you can make like a shadow box to experience that, or you could just make a light and shadow area, much like what this one looks like, where the paper is there and the lights are going towards the white paper. All right, so I think I just have just enough time to kind of go through the Maker Faire. So the Maker Faire sort of brought everything together. It's a one-day event. We try to bring as much of the community together as we can. Having a taco truck always helps get people there. We all need to eat dinner, so we wanted to have a space where you're going to come and eat together and you're going to play together. Um, it tried to still use very simple things, maybe things that they're already doing in their class, but then also introduce a few new um, activities and things that they could engage with, and all about their parents coming alongside them and doing that together with them. So we did using the parachutes. I mean, there's so many people that have parachutes out there. We don't always bring them out. We don't always have a lot of time. So it was just a way for kids to engage. I think the parachute's just so fun with so much color and so much and when you have a lot of people, it just makes it a lot more fun when there's a group of people. We did this I think it was from 4 to 6. So we try to get that time where it wasn't too far away from school ending, but gave a little bit of time, and then serve dinner and have parents home still at an early or pretty early time. Um, some of the engagement that the kids did. So you see a little boy there in front of the fan. He's making one of those Lego cars and testing it. We had kids doing bubbles, like I said, in the parachute outside. We had 290 children and adults that came last year. So it is definitely growing. So your first event, we were a little small. We were like 100 or so. It grew a little bit more the next year. It grew a little bit more the following year. So it's really exciting to just have that growth and the interaction. And it was also wonderful because we did in collaboration with the site. So we didn't come out and do the event for them. We had some spaces where we included the educators there, and they were the facilitators of the different exhibits or the different stations out there. And it brought so much energy to the faculty and staff there because they got to see their former students. They got to see their current students and more of their families. They got to see parents engaging with their kids and not on their phone and having their kid on the side. It was just a really beautiful experience, I think, for everyone to just be involved with. We had stomp rockets outside, so some foam rockets, and kids were making some paper rockets and testing them, or we had some foam ones. So lots of ways that we could level the different experiences and different age groups that were there. Some really big puzzles, so some really big foam puzzles that they were engaging with and trying to recreate some objects. Oh, we had a salad, one of those salad mixers spinners, and we did some art. So kids were pouring some paint with the paper that was inside and would pour paint and spin it and see the different beautiful creations that they were making. And we would dry them out there and then they could take them home. So we had a lot of art. We brought some little hex bugs with Legos and kids were making mazes inside. Um, oh, and we had at least one project that it was a collaboration, so everyone participated in making this huge sign with their handprints. So it was something that was like an artifact of the day or the event that the organization could keep afterwards. We did some coding. So if kids hadn't had some experiences with coding, we did some coding that didn't use any screens and was completely block-based for them to use. And then the very dependent and always engaging um, balls and tunnels was just kids were just having so much fun, and kids of all age playing out there, and their parents coming with them and making different things was so much fun to see. So that was just sort of a culminating thing that we kind of do in the spring with one of our partners. And like I said, it's just been growing and just a way to engage. It is just that one event, but we're hoping that we'll be able to like grow that and have more of our community involved and see that grow over time. But yeah, maybe there's I think there's about 4 minutes if there's any no, there's 15 minutes. So there's still a lot of times for me to just take some questions um and to see maybe there's some specific questions that might be out there. I don't know if we have the any in the Q&A. Um but yeah, I'm just really grateful to just be able to share our learning and our experience with you, and um, excited that there's a lot of people who want some of these resources, because I love to see this kind of grow and be out there in the community and be used. Oh yes, about salad spinner. Yes, the salad spinner is what we use for the paint. Any other questions? Let's see. Yeah, so the younger groups, yeah, you can definitely adapt some of these things for the younger kids. Um, and a lot of the things that I shared today were about, having that adult and child interact. So that's really an important piece of these interactions, is to have that other person side by side. How did we advertise? Shelly is asking how we advertise. So we started creating just a list, an email list, on our website of people who are interested in the play shops. The more partners, of course, that we have in our sort of circle and we start working with, the more that we can share out. So that really helped us. But I wish I knew like the secret sauce of what changed from especially like the play shops and getting more people in. I feel it was sort of like a resilience and um being determined to have no costs. We also, as we were coming out of COVID, we did have hybrid play shops. So we had the opportunity for people to sign up and order the materials for a not for a minimal fee that could be sent to them. And then we had a space where they could virtually join us, and we would have the cameras and be prepared to present the intro activities. We're sort of coming out of that space, but I think having hybrid that first year or so was a way to still try to reach out to people. Was your partner a community organization or school? So our partners are both. So I think one of them mentioned Franklin. So Franklin is one of the Head Start. So we work with the Head Start here in our community at different sites. And some of our partners are schools and school districts, and some of our partners are other nonprofits as well. So we are open to working with a variety of partners all around, just engaging STEM and STEAM. And we just finished opening a new maker studio where we'll hopefully bring together more of our partners and community and give them opportunities to engage with different materials. For example, like sewing machines. We have a laser cutter, so that will allow us to produce some more of these things at a faster rate, like to cut out cardboards and things like that for some of our kits. Um, we wanted more spaces for doing like circuit work, whether that was like really simple circuits with stickers and LED lights, or it could be a little bit more complicated and get into coding. So just trying to leverage the spaces that we could provide that support for. Yeah. So we don't have our take-home kits online to print. I think every month there's like one activity on our website. I believe right now it's NOTANS is on our website, aimcenter.org. NOTANS is a Japanese art that uses symmetry to produce the final project through a process of cutting out a shape and then reflecting that shape over a line of that becomes a line of symmetry. So we do share those projects that way. Most of our kits this year will be produced through the Head Start partnership. Um, but we're thinking about reaching out to our community at an event called Kids Day and thinking about how we can maybe use take-home kits for that event. It does take a lot of assembly. It's an assembly line to get that many kits produced. We are very fortunate. We are housed on the campus of Fresno Pacific University, so we're able to use interns who are studying to be educators, future educators. They are interns at Ames, and we're able to leverage their kind of manpower to help us. They're paid interns, but they help us do a lot of the assembly work that we wouldn't be able to do ourselves. So we're really grateful for the partnerships that we have with interns at Fresno State and at Fresno Pacific. So that might be a way to reach out to those spaces where you have pre-service people, pre-service teachers, or um, future teachers wanting to engage in meaningful work and could help assemble kits, because that's one way that we've come together. But yeah, we're open to different partnerships. I think it's just a matter of materials and making that a simplified piece there, and also thinking about the assembly of it. Mm. Oh, so someone had a question about the salad spinner. So the salad spinner, we you could use either small plates or small round pieces of paper. And if you lay that into the salad spinner and then put paint inside of it, it usually has some way to like close it because it'll splatter everywhere. But then you like it's almost like a pump, like a spinning pump. And as that spins, it'll spin the paint around the paper. And so it allows the paint to mix with each other in sort of like a marble kind of way, like a marbleized kind of way. So it allows kids to just experiment with different colors, how colors mix together, and how the act of spinning can create a certain type of art. Kids love that. They love to they love to open. You should see their faces when they open it up and they look inside um after they've created something. Yeah, and I was going to mention one of our partners works with special needs students, and they've been able to adapt some of our interactive exhibits that are like more friendly to kids with special needs. Especially, I think the wind tube is one of those that um, children can engage with at different levels and different ages. And you can modify the different materials that they're putting inside the wind tube, depending on the group that you're working with. And there's smaller wind tubes that you could create. We've done smaller ones with the smaller fans, and then larger ones with the larger fans are also a way to kind of have those bigger exhibits. But you can think about the space you have and whether you want like three small ones or just two huge bigger ones. There's different sizes as well. Let's see, any other questions? Oh, my email address is aileen@aimcenter.org. It's the same as our website, but it's Aileen, AILEEN at. Yeah. Let's see. Questions. Yes. Oh, great. So about 5 minutes. Thank you again for having some time here together. Just another reminder about the survey. If you have time, please engage with research that is happening now and let your voice and your participation be heard in that area. I think that's so important. And yeah, I'm really happy that you're here and you're engaging with some new ideas, and we're all learning together. So in the ways that you are going to use these resources and make them your own and innovate and change them, we're all in spaces of learning from each other. I have a quote on my wall, and it says, "No one knows everything, but together we learn a lot." And I really believe that. Like it's to the togetherness, the collaboration, where we can grow, where we can learn from each other. We have different perspectives. So it's so important for there to be a diverse group represented. Everyone's at the table sharing their insights, and we're assuming the best intentions of everyone, that we're involved in this meaningful work because we believe in it and we know it makes a difference for our families and for our kids, and for the future we want to have for them. So thank you so much for your time today. Oh, the taco truck. We did provide the taco truck as part of our in-kind gift at the Maker Fair. We thought it was important to just have dinner available. Um, but I think maybe we could also think about ways businesses might be involved in spaces like this, and maybe get them to collaborate and contribute. But I think good food brings people together. So so that's just a reality that we can use for engaging with our families. Thank you. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for being willing to listen to all these ideas and see all the different options that are out there. If you go through the slides and want any more information, please let me know. Be happy to help. Absolutely. It's my pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you so much for your time. There will be a survey for the session at the end, so I encourage everyone to go back to the lobby after we are done here, so you can go to the convening session. Yes. Thank you for the reminder. You're very welcome. Thank you for everyone being here. I believe when I close this session in 1 minute, I think it should take everyone back to their spaces. Thank you again, everyone. I wish you the best in all your endeavors and in the work that you do. Thank you for being such amazing educators and giving your time and energy to to children, to our very youngest children. Thank you.